Stepped off the transport ship and immediately felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. The air was too thin, like breathing on top of a mountain. The gravity was too weak, making each step feel like he might float away. He gripped the railing the necessary as he walked down the boarding ramp. Stellar Academy stretched before him like a crystal city. Towers of glass and metal reached toward the purple sky of Prime. Hundreds of students moved across the courtyards below, and not one of them looked human. Saw beings with scales, beings with fur, beings with shells and wings and extra arms. Some walked, some slithered, some seemed to glide without touching the ground at all. He pulled his jacket around himself and felt the familiar weight of the compression bands underneath. They pressed against his arms and legs, a constant reminder to move slowly, to be careful, to not break anything or hurt anyone. Over here, a voice called out in Korean. He turned and saw waving at him from the bottom of the ramp. She wore the academy uniform, a dark blue suit with silver markings. Her black hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked comfortable here, like she belonged. She had been at the academy for 6 months already. Made his way down carefully, taking each step with deliberate slowness. When he reached her, grabbed his arm excitedly. "I can't believe you're finally here. How was the trip? Are you okay? You look pale." "The artificial gravity on the ship was different," said quietly. "Still adjusting." Smile faded slightly. "Right, the adjustment period. Are you sure you want to go through with this? The academy is tough, even for species that evolved for this environment." "I'll be fine," said. He meant it, but he knew wouldn't understand. Not yet. They walked through the main courtyard together. Other students stared at as he passed. Some pointed and whispered to their friends. A few looked curious, but most looked pitying, like they were watching someone who didn't belong. A tall reptilian student walked past, easily 3 meters tall with green scales and golden eyes. He moved with casual power, each step sure and strong. He glanced at and snorted, saying something in a hissing language to his companion. They both laughed. "Ignore them," said quietly. "Some of the students here think they're better than everyone else." "It's okay," replied. He was used to being underestimated. The past 90 days of travel had been full of training, preparing, waiting. He could wait a little longer. They entered the main administration building. Inside, the ceilings were impossibly high, designed to accommodate the largest species in the galaxy. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing academy announcements in dozens of languages. His translator implant buzzed softly in his ear, converting everything to Korean. At the registration desk, a being with multiple eyes looked down at. The being's name tag read Administrator. "Species?" the administrator asked in a clicking voice. "Human from Earth." The administrator's eyes shifted colors, cycling through several shades before settling on a dim blue. "Ah, yes, we received your file." There was a long pause. "You understand that Stellar Academy maintains very high physical and mental standards?" "Yes," said. "And you're aware that humans have only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Your species has no military tradition in galactic terms." "We have military traditions," said softly, "just not galactic ones." The administrator made a note on a holographic display. "Very well. You've been assigned to Basic Combat Training, Section 7. That's the introductory course for species with limited physical capabilities." Started to protest but touched her arm gently. "That's fine, thank you." They collected his room assignment and class schedule. As they left the building, was practically vibrating with frustration. Basic Combat, Section 7, that's for amphiloforms, species that can barely lift their own body weight. "It's okay." "It's not okay. You should at least be in the intermediate class. I told them about your scores from Earth, your training records, everything." Stopped walking and looked at her. "It's okay, trust me." Something in his voice made her pause. She studied his face, searching for something. You're planning something." "I'm following protocols," said carefully. "Earth's integration protocols." Before could ask more, another voice interrupted them. "You must be the other human." They turned to see a young woman jogging toward them. She had kind eyes and wore a medical student's uniform with a red cross symbol. She was slightly out of breath when she reached them. "Sorry, I'm Lee. I'm in the xenobiology program. When I heard another human was coming, I wanted to introduce myself. There are only 3 of us in the whole academy now." "3?" asked. "You, me, and that's it, out of 5,000 students," smiled. "We should stick together, right? I was going to grab some food at the dining hall. Want to come?" The dining hall was enormous, with different sections for different species' dietary needs. Noticed that the standard portions would feed him for 3 days. Everything here was built for beings much larger than humans. They found a table in the human-compatible section. A few other students sat nearby, mostly smaller species. Noticed they were all watching him with curiosity. "So," said as she ate, "what made you want to come to Stellar Academy? It's pretty far from Earth." "I want to learn about other species," said. It was true, if not the complete truth. Earth is new to the galactic community. We have a lot to learn. "That's a diplomatic answer," laughed. "But seriously, aren't you nervous? This place is designed for species that evolved under different conditions. The gravity here is only 0.6 standard Earth. The atmosphere is thinner. Everything is different." "I'm managing," said. "You say that, but I've seen your medical file. Your baseline vitals look stressed even at rest. Your heart rate is elevated, your bone density scans looked weird," and paused. "Sorry, medical student habits, I shouldn't be nosy." "It's fine," said. He took a careful sip of water, making sure not to crush the cup. Everything here was made of lighter materials than on Earth. He had already broken 2 cups on the transport ship. Across the dining hall, a group of students were gathered around a holographic display. They were watching some kind of combat footage, cheering and shouting. One figure dominated the screen, a massive reptilian warrior moving with deadly grace. "That's," said following's gaze. "He's the Academy champion, 3 years undefeated. He's really good." The warrior on the screen moved like lightning, defeating opponent after opponent. The crowd watching cheered with each victory. "He's added. They're one of the premier warrior species in the galaxy. Natural hunters, enhanced strength, and a cultural tradition of honor combat going back thousands of years." Watched silently, was indeed skilled. His movements were efficient, powerful, and practiced. But to his eyes, trained since childhood in Earth's harsh environment, there was something else. The warrior was fast, yes. Strong, absolutely, but predictable, direct. His attacks followed clear patterns telegraphed by his body position. "Come on," said, standing up. "Let me show you to your quarters. You need rest. Tomorrow you start classes, and trust me, even basic combat is going to be hard." Followed her out of the dining hall. As they left, he didn't notice the golden eyes of watching him from across the room. The champion had heard about the human students, had seen the note in the Academy records about Earth's classification. Class 12. Wondered what that meant. The combat training arena was the largest building had seen on campus. It rose from the ground like a metal mountain, with walls that could adjust to simulate any environment in the galaxy. Inside, the ceiling stretched up so high that clouds formed near the top. Walked slowly across the training floor, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. Other students were already there, stretching and preparing. He recognized several species from his orientation materials. A group of clicked and buzzed to each other in one corner, their multiple arms moving through complex warm-up exercises. 3 students practiced strikes against training dummies, their scaled fists hitting with sounds like thunder. "Attention," a sharp voice called out. The instructor entered the arena. He was his exoskeleton marked with scars from old battles. Two of his 4 arms held while the other 2 gestured as he spoke. I am Commander Vex. In this class, you will learn the fundamentals of personal combat. Not all of you will excel. Some of you should not be here at all. His compound eyes swept across the students and stopped on. But Academy rules say everyone gets a chance to try. The class began with basic exercises, running laps around the arena, jump training, strength assessments, did everything slowly, carefully. When others ran, he jogged. When they jumped, he barely left the ground. When they lifted training weights, he struggled with the setting. A student named watched with obvious amusement. Look at the mammal, he clicked to his friends. He moves like he's underwater. Maybe he's sick. Humans are weak, another replied. I read about them. They come from a world with barely any dangerous predators. They've never had to fight to survive. Heard them but said nothing. He continued his exercises, moving with careful, measured steps. Inside, his muscles burned, not from exertion, but from holding back. The compression bands under his uniform pressed against his skin, limiting his movements. The gravity here was so light that he felt like he might accidentally jump through the ceiling if he wasn't careful. Pair up for sparring, Commander Vex announced. Light contact only. I want to see technique, not power. Was paired with a student, a being that looked like a combination of fish and bird, with scales that shimmered blue and green. There was named Rill, and he seemed uncomfortable with the pairing. Try not to get hurt, Rill said, his voice bubbling like water. I will be gentle. They faced each other on the training mat. Other pairs around them began their matches. The sounds of combat filled the arena, strikes and blocks, and the occasional thud of someone hitting the padded floor. Begin, Vex commanded. Rill moved first, a quick jab towards shoulder. Tried to block but moved too slowly. The hit connected, pushing him back a step. It felt like being tapped by a child but made himself stumble as if it had actually hurt. He countered with a slow punch that Rill easily avoided. They circled each other. Rill struck again, this time a sweep its legs, tried to jump but didn't jump high enough. He fell to the mat with a controlled thud. Point to Rill, Vex announced, watching with disappointment. They reset. The match continued for another 2 minutes. Rill scored 3 more points while scored none. When it ended, was breathing normally but pretended to be exhausted. Rill looked apologetic. You tried well, Rill said kindly. Perhaps with practice you will improve. Thank you, replied quietly. Around the arena, other matches ended. They had dominated their opponents with superior speed and coordination. The students won through pure power. Even the smaller species had put up better fights than. Commander Vex made notes on his, shaking his head. Report to medical after class. I want to ensure you're physically capable of continuing this course. Yes, sir, said. After class, found waiting outside the arena. She had her medical scanner ready and looked worried. Told me you had a rough time in there. Let me check you over. They went to a quiet corner, ran the scanner over his body, and her frown deepened as she read the results. This doesn't make sense, she muttered. You have bruises forming on your shoulder and ribs, but the impact data from your suit sensors shows those hits should have just bounced off. Your bone density is reading 3 times higher than it should be, and your muscle composition. She looked up at him. What's going on? These readings are all wrong. They're not wrong, said. They're just different. Different how? Before could answer, a commotion erupted from the main courtyard. Students were gathering around the central announcement board. Excited voices filled the air in dozens of languages. And walked over to see what was happening. On the large holographic display, a message was being broadcast to the entire academy. Exhibition match announcement, the display read. Academy Champion of Challenges exchange Student of Earth to an honor combat demonstration. 1 week from today. Combat Arena Alpha. All students invited to attend. The crowd burst into excited chatter, felt hundreds of eyes turn toward him, Students pointed and whispered. Some laughed, others looked concerned. Himself stood near the display, his golden eyes fixed on. He was enormous up close, easily 2.5 meters tall, with dark green scales that looked like natural armor. When he spoke, his voice carried across the courtyard. "Human, I have heard your world is classified as in galactic records. I am curious what this means. Will you accept my challenge and show the Academy what Earth warriors can do?" The courtyard fell silent. Everyone waited for response. Felt's hand on his arm. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "He's the champion. He's never lost a match. You'll get hurt." "It would be rude to refuse," said quietly. Then louder so could hear, "I accept your challenge. Thank you for the opportunity." His face split into what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Excellent. I look forward to our match, human. It will be educational for everyone." The crowd erupted in noise again. Students immediately started placing bets on how long would last. Most estimates ranged from 10 seconds to 1 minute. Nobody gave him any chance of winning. As the crowd dispersed, pushed through to reach, her face was pale with worry. "Are you insane? Do you know what you just agreed to? Is the best fighter in the Academy. He's trained since he could walk. He's beaten warriors from 50 different species." "I know," said calmly. "Then why would you accept?" Looked at her steadily. "What day is the match?" Checked her 7 days from now. "Why does that?" Her eyes widened. Oh. "What?" asked confused. "What am I missing?" Grabbed's arm. "The 90-day protocol. You arrived 90 days ago on the colony transport. You've been at the Academy Processing Center since then, going through medical checks and orientation. The match is on day 91. "I don't understand," said. Looked at both of them. "Can we talk somewhere private?" They went to his quarters, a small room designed for human occupancy. Once inside with the door sealed, began removing his jacket. Underneath, wrapped around his arms and legs, were thick bands of dark metal. He touched a control on his collar, and the bands released with a heavy thud. Each one hit the floor hard enough to leave small dents in the metal surface. His eyes went wide. "What are those?" "Compression weights," said. "Gravity limitation bands. I've been wearing them since I left Earth." He rolled his shoulders, and both women could see him move more freely, more naturally. "Earth's government requires all humans traveling to low-gravity worlds to wear them for 90 days. It's to prevent accidents." "Accidents?" asked. "Earth's gravity is almost twice as strong as here," explained. "Our atmosphere is denser. We evolved as endurance hunters on a world full of predators. Our bodies are built to survive conditions that would kill most species." He looked at them seriously. "The protocol exists so we can learn to control our strength, so we don't hurt anyone by mistake." Sat down heavily on a chair. "So you've been holding back this whole time. You let them think you were weak." "I didn't let them think anything. I just didn't correct their assumptions." His medical mind was racing. "That explains the scan readings. Your bone density, your muscle composition, everything. You're not weak. You're compressed. Literally compressed." She looked up at him with new understanding. "What happens when you take all the weights off?" Smiled slightly. It was the first real smile they had seen from him. "In 7 days," he said, "everyone will find out." The next morning, the entire academy was buzzing with talk of the upcoming match. Betting pools had grown larger overnight. The odds were heavily against. Some students were betting on whether he would even show up. In the combat training area, practiced with his usual training partners. He moved through forms that had been perfected over centuries by warriors. Each strike was powerful enough to dent metal. Each movement flowed into the next with practiced ease. His trainer, an older named Master, watched with crossed arms. "You seem confident," said. "Why shouldn't I be? The human can barely complete basic exercises. This will be over in seconds." "He accepted your challenge without hesitation," pointed out. That should tell you something. Paused his training. What could it tell me? That he's foolish, that he doesn't understand what he's agreed to. Perhaps, or perhaps he knows something you don't, gestured at a. I looked up Earth's classification. Class 12. Do you know how rare that is? There are only 15 Class 12 worlds in the known galaxy and most are uninhabitable. Classifications can be wrong, said. Besides, I've seen the human. He moves like an injured prey animal. Sighed, underestimating an opponent is how warriors die. Even if you win, at least study your opponent first. But was already returning to his forms, confident in his inevitable victory. Meanwhile, had a different kind of preparation to do. Late at night, when most students were sleeping, he made his way to one of the smaller training rooms in the basement level. These rooms were rarely used, designed for species that needed specialized environments. He sealed the door and approached the gravity controls. His hands moved over the interface, adjusting the settings. The room's gravity increased from 0.6 standard to 1.8 standard. Earth gravity. The change hit him immediately. Weight settled onto his shoulders like an old friend. His feet pressed firmly against the floor. The air felt thicker, more substantial. He took a deep breath and smiled. This felt like home. Removed his compression bands and jacket. For the first time since leaving Earth, he moved freely. He started with basic stretches, feeling muscles that had been constrained for 3 months. Then he moved into forms, the martial arts training he had practiced since childhood. His movements were completely different now. Where before he had been slow and careful, now he was fluid and fast. His fists cut through the air with sharp sounds. His kicks were precise and powerful. He moved through the forms faster and faster, his body remembering what it was built to do. Outside the training room had followed him. She watched through the door's window, her eyes wide. This wasn't the same person who had struggled in combat class. This was something else entirely. When finished, he found her waiting in the hallway. "How long have you been there?" he asked. "Long enough," looked at him differently now. "I need to ask you something. Why didn't you tell anyone? Why let them think you were weak?" Considered his answer carefully. "Do you know why Earth's government created the 90-day protocol?" "To prevent accidents," you said. "That's part of it, but there's more." Started walking and walked beside him. "When humans first made contact with the galactic community, we didn't understand how different we were. One of our diplomats shook hands with an ambassador and accidentally broke 3 of his fingers. A human child playing on a colony whirled through a ball and put it through a wall. A security officer tried to restrain someone and sent them to the hospital. You hurt people by accident," said quietly. "We hurt people just by being ourselves. We didn't mean to. We just didn't know our own strength compared to everyone else." Stopped walking. "So Earth's government made rules, compression weights, gravity bands, mandatory adjustment periods. We learned to be gentle first. We learned to exist in a galaxy that's more fragile than our home world. But the match is in 6 days. You're going to take all that off in front of everyone." "Yes, because challenged me to show what an Earth warrior can do. He asked for it specifically, and it's been 90 days. Looked at her. "I've adjusted. I know how to control myself now. I won't hurt him, but I won't pretend to be weak anymore either." The next few days passed in a strange way. Continued attending his classes, still moving slowly with his weights on. Other students whispered and pointed. Some looked at him with pity, others with amusement. Nobody seemed to think he had a chance. Spent hours reviewing his medical data and comparing it to galactic norms. The more she learned about human physiology, the more amazed she became. "Your species is terrifying," she told one evening in the dining hall. "Did you know you can run for hours without stopping? Most species can sprint or they can walk, but humans can just keep going. Forever." "Persistence hunting," said. "Our ancestors would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. And your pain tolerance is insane. What would hospitalize most species you call minor discomfort. Your bones are like metal. Your muscles are incredibly dense. Your cardiovascular system is for this environment. She looked at him with something like awe. You're built for a world that actively tries to kill you every day. Earth isn't that bad, said mildly. Your world has temperature swings of over 100 degrees, storms that can destroy cities, animals that can kill you with venom, claws, teeth, or just size, microscopic organisms that cause deadly diseases, and that's just the natural threats, shook her head. How did your species survive long enough to develop civilization? We adapted, that's what humans do, we adapt. On the fifth day before the match, sought out in the dining hall, the crowd parted as the champion approached. He sat down across from without asking permission. Human said, I wanted to speak with you before our match. I'm listening. Some people say I'm being cruel, that I'm bullying someone weaker than me. Leaned forward. I want you to know that's not my intention. I challenged you because I'm curious. Your world's classification intrigues me. I want to see what it can really do. Met his golden eyes steadily. You'll see. I've watched videos of Earth animals, your apex predators, your megafauna. I've studied your world's environment. It's harsh, I admit, but you humans seem so fragile, soft skin, no natural weapons, no armor. How did you survive such a world? We're tougher than we look, said simply. Studied him for a long moment. I hope so. I would hate for this match to be disappointing. He stood up. Train well, human. I want you at your best when we fight. After he left, whistled softly. He has no idea what's coming, does he? No, agreed, he doesn't. That night returned to the basement training room. This time, Bothan came with him. They watched as he adjusted the gravity and removed his weights. Show us, said. Show us what you can really do. Moved to the center of the room. He closed his eyes for a moment, centering himself. Then he began. He started slow, warming up with basic forms. Punches, kicks, blocks. Then he increased his speed. His movements became a blur. His feet barely seemed to touch the ground. He spun, struck, flowed from one technique to another without pause. He practiced against training dummies, his strikes hitting with sharp cracks. The dummies, designed to withstand attacks from strong species, rocked backward with each hit. He demonstrated throws, joint locks, pressure point strikes. He showed them techniques from Taekwondo, Hapkido, and Judo. Fighting arts developed over thousands of years on a world where combat meant survival. When he finished, he wasn't even breathing hard, and stared at him in stunned silence. That's what you've been hiding, finally said. That's what you really are. I'm just human, said. This is normal for us. On Earth, I'm average. There are much better fighters than me. If you're average, said slowly, then what would a really good human fighter be like? Smiled, maybe someday you'll find out. The night before the match, couldn't sleep. He stood at his window, looking out at the alien stars. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the galaxy would see what humans really were. His communicator buzzed. A message from Earth, from his instructor back home. Remember, the message said, you represent all of humanity tomorrow. Show them our strength but also our honor. Win with grace, fight with control, make us proud. Read the message twice, then deleted it. He didn't need the reminder. He knew what was at stake. Tomorrow, the quiet student would show them all what Earth had made him. Tomorrow would learn what a human warrior really was. Tomorrow, everything changed. The grand arena was filled to capacity. 5,000 students packed the stands, with thousands more watching on screens throughout the academy. The air hummed with excitement and anticipation. Vendors sold food and drinks. Students argued about betting odds. Everyone wanted to see the match between the academy champion and the struggling human student. Most came expecting entertainment. Some came out of pity. A few came hopping to see something surprising. Nobody came expecting to win. In the preparation rooms beneath the arena, stood quietly. He wore simple training clothes, lightweight and flexible. His compression bands and weights sat in a neat pile on the bench beside him. For the first time in 90 days, he felt completely free. And stood with him. "Are you nervous?" asked. "A little," admitted. "Not about the fight, about what comes after." "What do you mean?" "After today, everyone will know what humans can do. That changes things. People will look at us differently, treat us differently." He looked at his hands. "I'm not sure if that's good or bad yet." "It's necessary," said firmly. "We can't hide forever. Better they learn the truth now in a controlled environment than by accident later." A buzzer sounded. It was time. Walked through the tunnel toward the arena floor. The sound of the crowd grew louder with each step. He could hear them chanting his name. He could hear laughter and jokes about how quickly the match would end. He stepped out into the light. The arena floor was enormous, a circle of reinforced material designed to withstand heavy combat. Above, the crowd's noise washed over him like a wave. He saw thousands of faces, dozens of species, all watching him. Some pointed, some laughed, some looked away, unable to watch what they thought would be a massacre. On the opposite side emerged. He wore ceremonial armor, scaled plates that gleamed under the lights. He carried traditional blade staffs, weapons that hummed with energy. He raised his arms to the crowd, and they roared their approval. Commander Vex stood in the center of the arena, his multiple arms raised for silence. The crowd gradually quieted. "This is an exhibition match between Academy Champion of and Exchange Student of Earth. The rules are simple, hand-to-hand combat. First to 3 significant strikes or submission wins. Lethal force is prohibited." Vex looked at both fighters. "This is a demonstration of skill and honor. Fight well." And approached the center. Up close, the size difference was dramatic. Towered over, his scaled body radiating power and confidence. His golden eyes studied the human with curiosity. "Are you ready, human?" asked. "Almost," said. He turned to Commander Vex. "Sir, permission to remove my compression gear." Vex's compound eyes blinked in confusion. "You're what?" Began removing his jacket. Underneath, the compression bands were visible, dark metal wrapped around his arms, legs, and torso. He touched the release controls, and the bands unlocked with a series of clicks. The first band hit the arena floor with a heavy thud. The sound echoed through the space. A crack appeared in the reinforced floor. The crowd's noise faltered. The second band fell. Another thud, another crack. Silence spread through the arena like a wave. Removed all the bands, placing them carefully aside. He rolled his shoulders, stretched his neck, and for the first time moved naturally. The difference was visible. He stood. His movements were fluid and confident. Even his breathing changed, deeper and more controlled. He removed a collar device from his neck, and his voice, no longer artificially dampened, rang out clearly. "Thank you for your patience, Commander." His confident expression had shifted to something else. Uncertainty, concern. His warrior instincts were telling him something had changed, but his mind couldn't process what. "What is this?" he demanded. "Earth Integration Protocol," explained. "Humans must wear compression gear for 90 days when visiting low-gravity worlds. Today is day 91. He looked at. "You challenged me to show you what an Earth warrior can do. Now I can." Vex checked his quickly, confirmed the information, and nodded slowly. "The protocol is legitimate. The match will proceed." He raised his arms. "Fighters, take your positions." They moved to opposite sides of the circle. The crowd was murmuring now, confused but intrigued. The betting odds began changing rapidly as people reconsidered their assumptions. "Begin." Attacked immediately, his warrior pride demanding he prove himself. He moved with the blinding speed that had defeated hundreds of opponents. His blade staff whistled through the air towards shoulder. The movement was casual, almost lazy. One moment he was in the staff's path, the next he was 3 feet to the left. Attack hit nothing but air. The crowd gasped, spun and attacked again, a combination of strikes that flowed together in a practiced pattern. High, low, middle, sweep. It was a technique that had never failed him. Weaved through the attacks like water flowing around stones. He didn't block. He didn't need to. He simply wasn't where the attacks were. His feet barely seemed to move, but he was always just out of reach. "Stop running," growled. "I'm not running," said calmly. "I'm observing." Roared and committed to a full-power strike, putting his entire body behind it. The blade staff came down like a hammer, fast enough to blur. Caught it. His hand closed around the staff mid-swing. The impact echoed through the arena, but his arm didn't budge. He held the weapon steady, his grip unbreakable. The crowd's murmur became a roar of disbelief. His eyes widened. He pulled at his weapon, but it didn't move. The human held it effortlessly. "You're very skilled," said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent arena. "On Earth, you would be considered a promising beginner." He released the staff and moved. One moment he was in front of, the next he was beside him. His hand touched his extended arm, and suddenly the champion was tumbling across the arena floor, his own momentum redirected against him. Rolled and came up in a fighting stance, his pride wounded. He dropped his blade staffs. "Weapons clearly aren't helping. We fight with honor hand to hand." "As you wish," said. Charged using pure speed and power. He was fast, incredibly fast by galactic standards. His punches could dent steel. His kicks could break bones. But was faster. He demonstrated techniques that had been refined over thousands of years on Earth. When punched, redirected the force, using this own power against him. When kicked, stepped inside the attack and struck pressure points that made his leg go numb for a moment. It was a lesson, not a fight. Moved like he was teaching, showing technique rather than overwhelming with power. Each movement was precise, controlled, and devastatingly effective. Struck shoulder, a light tap that somehow sent the champion stumbling. First point. Attacked again, trying a wrestling technique. Countered with a throw that sent flying. The landed hard but safely. Second point. The crowd was completely silent now. This wasn't what anyone had expected. The human wasn't just winning. He was dominating, and he was doing it while barely trying. Got up slowly. His armor was scratched. His pride was more damaged than his body. He looked at with new eyes, seeing him truly for the first time. "You've been holding back," he said. "Yes." "Even now, you're holding back." Nodded. "I don't want to hurt you. You fought with honor. You deserve the same." Felt something strange. Not anger, but respect. This human could have humiliated him, could have hurt him. Instead, was giving him a chance to surrender with dignity. But warriors didn't surrender. Charged one last time, putting everything into a final attack. He was the Academy champion. He would not go down without giving his absolute best. Met the charge head-on. For the first time, he didn't dodge or redirect. He blocked directly, his forearm meeting his punch. The impact sounded like thunder. Then moved. His hand found his wrist. His foot hooked behind his knee. His body turned and suddenly was airborne, flying in a perfect arc before landing on his back on the arena floor. His hand was on his chest, holding him down with just enough pressure to make the point clear. He could have struck, could have finished it with overwhelming force. Instead, he simply held the position. "Third point," Commander Vex announced, his voice barely above a whisper. "Winner of Earth." The arena exploded with noise. Shock, amazement, disbelief, and excitement all mixed together in a roar that shook the walls. Stood and offered his hand, too. The champion stared at it for a moment, then took it, pulled him to his feet effortlessly. "You fought with honor," said. "Thank you for the match. I learned from watching you." Looked at the human, really looked at him, and understood. You were never weak, you were compressed, contained. He shook his head in wonder. What are humans really like on your world? Smiled, come to Earth someday. I'll show you. The academy exploded with activity after the match. Within hours, footage of the fight had spread across the entire galactic network. News stations ran stories with headlines like "Unknown Species Defeats Champion" and "Warrior Shocks Galaxy." Students who had missed the match watched recordings with disbelief. Found himself at the center of a storm he hadn't wanted. Everywhere he went, students stared. Some approached with questions. Others kept their distance, suddenly wary. The human who had been invisible for 3 months was now the most talked-about student in the academy. In his quarters that evening sat with and his communicator had been buzzing constantly with messages. Interview requests, challenge requests, even diplomatic inquiries from various species governments. "This is exactly what I was worried about," said quietly. "What do you mean?" asked. "You won. You showed everyone that humans aren't weak." "I showed them we're different. That changes everything. Now they'll either fear us or want to test us. Neither is good." "Understood. You wanted to just be a student, learn, make friends, represent Earth quietly." "Yes, instead I'm now the human who beat," sighed. "Earth's government is going to have a lot to say about this." A knock on the door interrupted them. Opened it to find Commander Vex standing there, all four arms holding various. "Student, we need to talk." They walked to Vex's office, a space filled with combat trophies and training manuals from dozens of worlds. Vex gestured for to sit, then regarded him with his compound eyes. "I owe you an apology," Vex said. "I underestimated you based on appearance. I placed you in a basic class when you should have been in advanced training from the start." "You didn't have all the information," replied. "The protocol required me to appear weaker than I was. Still, I'm an instructor. I should have investigated more thoroughly." Vex pulled up files on his screen. "I've spent the evening reading everything available about Earth. Your world is disturbing. It's home. Your gravity is nearly double galactic standard. Your atmosphere is thick and oxygen-rich to the point where most species would consider it toxic. Your temperature variations would be classified as extreme. You have predators that hunt in packs, venomous creatures, natural disasters that destroy cities." Vex looked at. "How does any species survive long enough to develop civilization on such a world?" "We adapt, we learn, we work together," leaned forward. "Earth is harsh, yes, but it made us strong, made us resilient. Every human child grows up learning to survive things that would kill most galactic species." "That's what frightens me," Vex admitted. "If you're average for your species, then humans are potentially the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy." "Dangerous?" shook his head. "We're survivors. There's a difference. We don't seek conflict. We seek to overcome challenges." Vex considered this. "Perhaps. Regardless, I'm reassigning you to advanced combat training. You'll be training with our best students, including. I'm also flagging Earth's classification in our systems. Future human students will be properly evaluated from the start." "Thank you, Commander." "Don't thank me, you earned it." Vex paused. "One more thing, has requested to speak with you. He's waiting outside." Nodded and Vex called in. The champion entered, looking different than before. His confident swagger was gone, replaced by something more thoughtful. "Human," said formally, "I came to ask, would you train with me?" Was surprised. "Train with you?" "Today you showed me that my training has been incomplete. I've always relied on my natural advantages, speed and strength, but you defeated me with technique and strategy. You made me look predictable." Met his eyes. "I want to learn. Teach me to fight like a human. Teach me to adapt like you do." Looked at the warrior before him, seeing genuine humility and desire to improve. "I would be honored, but I want to learn from you too. Your techniques are impressive, different from anything on Earth." His face split in a smile. "Then we'll teach each other, a fair exchange." They shook hands, sealing the agreement. It was the beginning of an unlikely friendship. Over the following weeks, the Academy adjusted to its new understanding of humans and became the center of a small but growing community. Students from other species approached them, curious and respectful. Training sessions with became famous. Other students would watch as the human and the practice together, learning from each other, taught about honor combat and the warrior traditions of dozens of species, taught about adaptation, unpredictability, and using an opponent's expectations against them. "You fight like water," said one day during practice, "always flowing, always changing." "And you fight like stone," replied. "Solid and unbreakable, both have value." Research on human physiology became a sensation in academic circles. Her paper detailed how humans evolved as endurance predators on a high-gravity world, developing unique advantages in stamina, healing, and adaptability. Medical students across the galaxy studied human biology with new interest. Started teaching a class called Human Combat Philosophy. She taught students from various species about Earth's martial arts, not just the physical techniques, but the mental discipline behind them. The class became one of the most popular electives at the Academy. 3 months after the match, the Academy held its annual tournament. This time, competed in the advanced division. He faced opponents from 20 different species, each with their own advantages and techniques. He didn't win every match. A fighter with 6 arms managed to overwhelm him with complex attack patterns. A student who fought underwater pulled off a surprise victory in the aquatic arena, but reached the finals, where he faced again. This time the match was different. Had learned from their training. He no longer relied on raw power and speed. He mixed up his patterns, adapted his strategy, and even used some techniques had taught him. The fight lasted 20 minutes, far longer than their first match. The crowd watched in amazement as human and pushed each other to their limits, landed solid hits, executed perfect counters. They moved across the arena like dancers, each anticipating the other's moves. In the end, won by a narrow margin. But as they stood together afterward, neither looked like a winner or loser. They looked like warriors who had both grown stronger. "You've improved incredibly," said, breathing hard for the first time in a fight. "I had a good teacher," replied. "Both of us did." The crowd's applause was deafening. This was what combat sports were meant to be, not domination but mutual growth. That evening stood on a balcony overlooking the Academy grounds. Joined him, bringing 2 drinks. "Thinking about Earth?" she asked. "Always, but this place is starting to feel like home too." "You changed everything, you know, not just for humans at the Academy but for how the galaxy sees us," smiled. "We're not just the new species anymore, we're respected." "Respected but not feared, I hope." "Respected and understood," corrected. "People know we're strong, but they also see we're honorable, that we want to learn and grow together with other species. You showed them that." Thought about the past few months, the challenges, the revelations, the friendships formed. "I was so worried about representing Earth well, about not making mistakes." "You did better than well. You showed them who we really are. Not weak, not aggressive, just human. Survivors who choose to be kind when we could choose to be dangerous." Below them, they could see students from dozens of species walking together, talking, laughing. And a practiced combat forms together. A group of smaller species studied with a human tutor. The Academy was more integrated now, more understanding. A message came through on's communicator. It was from Earth's Education Ministry. "Additional human students will be arriving next semester. Your success has opened doors for our people across the galaxy. Well done." Smiled. More humans coming meant more friends, more people to share the burden of representation. It meant Earth was truly becoming part of the galactic community. Appeared in the doorway. "There you are. Come on, we're having a celebration in the common area. Everyone wants the champion to attend." "Which champion?" asked. "Both of us, obviously. You won the tournament, but I won the Best Improvement Award. Grinned. Besides, is challenging to an arm wrestling match. You don't want to miss that. They headed inside together, the human and the survivor and the warrior champion, now friends and training partners. As they walked through the halls, realized that this was what Earth's integration into the galaxy was really about. Not domination or fear, but connection, learning from each other, growing stronger together. The quiet student had defeated the Academy's best warrior. But more importantly, he had shown that humans could be both strong and kind, both dangerous and honorable, both different and part of the community. Earth had prepared them for the worst the universe could offer. But the galaxy, with all its diversity and potential for friendship, was something much better than they had expected. And this was only the beginning.